3 spine-chilling true terrors uncovered at Sinister pit stops, forbidden secrets revealed. Jessica gripped the steering wheel as she rounded the familiar bend on the back roads leading home, the headlights slicing through the inky blackness of a night that felt heavier than usual. The muffled sound of the diner's late-night gossip lingered in her mind, a blend of laughter and chatter peppered with tales of strange occurrences. But now, as she drove past the dilapidated gas stations and rusted signs, the only thing she felt was a gnawing unease, as if something lurked just out of sight. Her heart raced when she spotted him. A disheveled man stood outside the old gas station, his dark clothes blending into the shadows. He craned his neck, locking onto her car with a hollow gaze that sent ice coursing through her veins. The last remnants of comfort evaporated. It was a chilling encounter. She shook her head, blaming it on exhaustion from her grueling shift. Yet, as the weeks passed, things only grew stranger. Every morning she'd discover cryptic notes on her windshield. "They see you. Don't trust the blue car." The scrawled words felt like dark omens, chilling warnings that pulled her deeper into irrational fears. Whispers of missing women echoed in her ears as she trudged around town, the sense of her quaint suburb warping into something sinister with every corner she turned. She remembered her neighbor, the elderly woman with wild grey hair and eyes that sparkled with wild stories, insisting that a spirit, a mother wronged, had taken residence in their neighborhood, searching for vengeance. Jessica laughed it off, shaking her head while internally she started to feel it, that creeping anxiety growing, gnawing at her. The thought of a ghost, while ludicrous, held a sliver of sense amongst the madness brewing around her. But with each revelation, she peeled back layers of the town's deception, a corrupt official preying on single mothers. It sounded like something out of a horror movie. How could she not have seen it? The reminders of those who had vanished sent shivers down her spine, and her sense of normalcy unraveled. Her headlights danced across the cracked pavement as a dull panic rose inside her. An instinct warned her that someone was waiting, lurking just beyond the reach of her gaze. Then one night came the shift, all things terrifying coalescing. Her children stumbled into her room, trembling, voices cracking with fear. "Mommy, there's something in the backyard." They claimed shadows moved, and they heard scratching at their door. Panic clawed at her throat, and she rushed outside, grasping at the threads of an escalating nightmare. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The instant she returned to the car, another note caught her eye. This one was written in red ink. Danger close to home. Adrenaline surged as she sped away, her mind racing, heart thumping in her chest like a frantic drumbeat. A flicker in her rear-view mirror caught her attention. The blue car chasing her. Whoever was behind it, did they wish to help or harm? They were too close now, pressure building as shadows deepened around her. What would she do when they finally caught up? Would they reveal the horrors she sensed? Or was this just the beginning of something far worse? Her pulse quickened as the blue car remained glued to her rear bumper, headlights glaring like watchful eyes. Panic squeezed her chest, and she swerved onto a dirt road, desperate to put distance between herself and whatever threat chased her. Dust engulfed the car, swirling around her like a sinister fog. She could barely breathe, struggling to focus as adrenaline surged through her. The headlights behind her flickered. For a moment, she thought it had vanished into the cloud of dust, but it quickly re-emerged, relentless, unyielding. Each bump in the road rattled her, a stark reminder that her reality was no longer safe or predictable. She could already hear the whispers of her children echoing in her mind, their tiny voices pleading for assurance she couldn't provide. "Mommy, please!" The night was thick with tension, and every shadow seemed to morph into something malevolent, stretching and vibrating, as if illuminated by her racing thoughts. She glanced at the dashboard, calculating how much longer she could cut through the woods before needing to confront the terror that followed. "Why is this happening?" she thought, tightening her grip on the steering wheel as panic clutched her throat. Images of the disheveled man from the gas station swarmed her mind. How could she have ignored the signs, the notes, the stories, the lingering twitch of dread nestled in her gut? Suddenly, she spotted a flicker of light up ahead. It looked like a clearing. Hope seeped into her panic as she pressed the gas pedal, tires screeching against the dirt road, kicking up clouds of dust that spiraled around her like a frightened serpent. The blue car was right behind her, persistent in its pursuit, its engine roaring like a predator hungry for the kill. As Jessica barreled into the clearing, relief washed over her momentarily, but it vanished just as quickly. She slammed on the brakes, heart plummeting, as she came face to face with an abandoned shack, creaking and leaning, shadows cloaked around it like an old twisted spectre. The dim light flickered from the cracked window. "Get out!" a hoarse voice rasped from the shadows of the shack. She turned, her breath caught in her throat. The voice resonated with the echoes of those she feared would never return. Instinctively, she clutched her phone, fingers trembling over the screen, but with the signal flickering erratically, she felt isolated, trapped in an eerie twilight world where no one could hear her scream. Jessica's instinct screamed for her to flee, but an unknown force churned inside her, urging her toward the shack. "Mummy, don't!" Her children's warnings replayed in her mind. Yet another part of her knew that answers lay within the old walls, buried alongside the town's dark secrets. The blue car's engine sputtered before it came to a halt behind her, and the figure stepped out slowly and deliberately. It was him, the disheveled man from the gas station. Fear twisted her stomach like a vice. The shadows pulling him closer made him seem impossibly larger. Jessica's heart thumped hard against her ribs, but with every ounce of courage she possessed, she turned the ignition back on, the engine sputtering before coming to life. But then she stopped, uncertainty clawing at her mind. What if he knows something I don't? Tension spiraled as the man approached, his hollow eyes glinting in the low light. In that moment, she felt a chill that went beyond fear. It was the tingling sensation of realization. What if the town's spirit, the mother wronged, wasn't the only thing haunting her? Could abandon and betrayal seep from these dusty walls like a slow poison? "Mommy, please!" The voice faded to a whisper, leaving only her own breathing echoing in the rushing silence. He reached out a hand, fingers long and skeletal. Closer, closer. What was she supposed to do now? Fight? Run? Or finally face the ghost of her past? The night closed in, claustrophobic, as the shadows around her began to gather, waiting for her decision. Would she step toward the shack and uncover the horrors it held, or flee away from the madness that had tangled her life into this web of terror? Jessica took a breath, poised at the edge of something unknown. But what if stepping into the dark was the only way to find the light again? And that's when she heard it, the faint echo of laughter, rising like a chorus from nowhere, a malevolent serenade that chilled her very soul. What had she awakened? The man's hand hovered inches from her face, cold and trembling like the last breath of a dying wind. Jessica's instincts screamed to turn and run, to escape the suffocating dread that coiled around her. The laughter, that haunting giggle, jangled through the air like broken glass. "Please, you don't have to do this," she stammered, her voice barely a whisper, almost drowned out by the swirling shadows. The cabin loomed ahead, its windows dark and foreboding, but behind her the blue car stood still, like a predator lying in wait. He paused, hand retracting, the flicker of surprise passing through his sunken features. Did he sense her fear, or was it a sick amusement? "You don't understand," he rasped, voice thick and slurred. "They only want to play." With every shaky breath, every furtive glance at the shack, she could feel the weight of her choices pressing down on her. The laughter echoed again, childlike, joyous. But even in its sweetness, there was something deeply wrong, something that twisted in her gut. "Play? Who are they?" Jessica asked, her heartbeat thundering in her ears. Fear spiked, igniting her need for answers, even while her body screamed to flee. He stepped closer, the shadows shifting with him, tightening around her. "The lost ones, the forgotten, they don't mean any harm, unless you ignore them." He tilted his head, and for a moment she could almost see the depths of despair in his eyes. They were swimming with a bright, manic energy, a hollowness that terrified her more than anything. Swallowing hard, she thought of her children, their laughter untainted, their play innocent. "Why should I care?" she shot back, feeling the rush of adrenaline, a desperate shield against a reality that threatened to overwhelm her. "What happened here? Why are you following me?" His laughter broke, razor-sharp. "Because they see you. They feel you. You can't escape what's coming. The more you push away, the stronger they grow." As he spoke, the ground beneath her quaked faintly, vibrations rippling through the air like a dark thunder. The trees beyond the shack began to tremble, their limbs bending as if bowing to an unseen force. Something was awakening, churning beneath the earthy layers of silence and neglect. Jessica's throat ran dry, and her mind raced back to the stories told in hushed whispers about this place. Families torn apart, children lost and never found. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, a surge of defiance filling her as she cast a glance at the skeletal figure edging closer through the shadows. "Only to remind you," he said, his voice dropping to a slithering whisper, "what you've left behind, what you buried deep and thought you had sealed forever." Her blood ran cold as the children's laughter crescendoed, spilling from the shack like a malevolent tide. It wrapped her in its embrace, pulling her toward the threshold, toward the door that creaked with untold stories waiting to be revealed. Just as she steeled herself to confront whatever haunted her past, a screech sliced through the air. The blue car's headlights flickered violently, illuminating the scene in stark relief, creating long shadows that danced like the restless souls that had haunted this land for too long. "Flee now, or you will be trapped," the man warned, panic flashing across his skeletal features. "They won't let you leave without playing." Jessica felt the ground tremble under her feet, the shadows swelling around her. She was caught between the threat of the figure beside her and the laughter pulling her closer to the shack, its dark secrets breathing heavy in the air. Time seemed to slow. What would her choice be? Would she uncover the truth standing in the shack, or would she run back to the blue car and the safety of the known, no matter how terrifying it might be? Just as the laughter reached a fever pitch, something shifted in the shack. A face pressed against the window, mouth wide in an eerie grin that twisted her heart deep with fear. With every ounce of courage left, Jessica made her decision. But as she took her first step, the ground beneath her cracked, splitting the night in two, as a chilling voice bellowed from the depths of the shack, "Come play with us." The choice echoed through the clearing, heavy and unyielding. Desperation clawed at her, racing against time, and in that moment she knew things would never be the same after tonight. What horrors lay beyond that door, and could she still escape, or was it already too late? Jessica's heart pounded as she stood paralyzed, the crack in the earth beneath her widening like a gaping maw. The man's warnings echoed in her ears, but the laughter continued, swirling around her, dragging her thoughts deeper into turmoil. "Come play with us." The voice was both a siren's call and a death knell. She felt warmth flooding her cheeks, adrenaline burning her resolve. The shadows pulsed, twisting like living things ready to close in, and she was caught in an endless loop of dread. She glanced back at the blue car, its comforting presence now tainted with the weight of her decision. Her children's laughter echoed in her mind, a stark reminder of joy now tainted and overshadowed by foreboding. "Stop!" she yelled, squaring her shoulders, unwilling to succumb to the madness. The figure loomed closer, grin widening as if feeding off her fear. She needed to remember the stories, the rumors of this cursed place that infected the townsfolk who dared approach. "The lost ones?" she murmured half to herself, trying to anchor her swirling thoughts. "Children lost, forgotten." The laughter morphed into shrieks of mockery that danced through the trees, swirling like wind-driven leaves. They were near, their playful spirits twisting into something sinister. Her vision darted towards the shack. Something was moving just beyond the threshold, shadows shifting with wild abandon as if they were alive. "Jessica!" the man crooned, his fingers twitching. "Don't you want to find them?" Instinct screamed at her to turn away, to run, but curiosity gripped her like a vice. Why had she come here? What truth lay buried in the memories of those who had vanished? Then came a thought, sharp and clear, slicing through the fog of fear. If she didn't confront this now, would it ever let her go? Would she forever carry the burden of unanswered questions? In that moment of clarity, she felt an inexplicable pull toward the door of the cabin. It was an invitation wrapped in dread, a threshold to knowledge that might put her soul at mercy. With a deep breath, she took a step closer, the ground vibrating beneath her as darkness beckoned. The shadows thickened, swirling around her legs like serpents hungry for their next meal. "Jessica!" the man shouted, desperation in his tone. "You'll regret this. They will demand more than you are ready to give." Her pulse raced, and she slammed her eyes shut, refusing to let fear paralyze her further. She needed to know why all of this was happening, why her life felt like a twisted game. She turned, stepping forward and grasping the cold, rough doorknob, her hand trembling as she gripped it tightly. Suddenly a sharp, powdery crack sounded behind her, like a tree snapping in a storm. She whirled around just in time to see a mass of dark shapes erupting from the woods. Ghostly figures, translucent yet eerily defined, rushed toward her, their eyes dark voids of hunger. "Play with us!" they shrieked, the chorus of voices rising in a whirlwind of despair and glee, and Jessica felt the warmth drain from her body. She stood at the threshold, heart racing. Fear gripped her, threatening to pull her under, yet part of her craved the unknown. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, voice trembling. The figure near her grinned wickedly. "Only your soul to join the lost." And then, in a heart-stopping moment, the door creaked open, revealing shadows beckoning her deeper into the darkened cabin. She felt the pull, heavy and undeniable, as the figures behind her swarmed closer. Could she still turn back? Was there time, or would the door close, trapping her forever in their twisted world? As the shadows reached for her, their laughter crescendoed into a roar, drowning out her thoughts with a fevered intensity. Jessica's heart raced, and with the last vestiges of her will, she plunged into the darkness, driven by a need, no matter the cost, to play. What awaited her inside? Would she finally uncover the truth, or discover horrors beyond comprehension? Inside the cabin, an oppressive darkness wrapped around her like a shroud, thick and suffocating. Every breath felt labored, as though the very air had conspired against her. The door swung shut behind her with a deafening thud, sealing her fate. The laughter outside faded into silence, replaced by a haunting echo that ricocheted off the walls, mocking her intrusion. "Welcome!" A voice slithered from the shadows. It was high-pitched and sweet, dripping with malice. Jessica's heart stuttered. She strained her eyes, trying to make sense of the gloom, but it was unyielding. Shapes danced just outside her vision, flirtations of movement, too quick to grasp. "Who's there?" she croaked, her throat dry and raw. She forced her feet to move, stumbling deeper into the forsaken cabin. The floorboards creaked like broken bones beneath her weight, sending waves of panic rippling through her. "Forgotten children," echoed the voice, playful yet sinister. "Here we remain, waiting for you to join our game." Suddenly the walls appeared to shimmer, revealing glimpses of images that morphed before her eyes. Faces of missing children, pale and distorted, emerged and then vanished, each one twisted in eternal despair. Horror clawed at her insides. Were these the lost ones? Were they trapped here? "Turn back!" A whisper wove through the air, lost among the ghosts of laughter. It was a warning, a desperate plea that fogged her mind. She remembered the man outside, his frantic warnings. "Too late," piped the childish voices from all directions, fluffy and innocent, hiding their true intent. "You wanted the truth, didn't you? Now you must play." Jessica stumbled further into the darkness, her pulse a thunderous beat that drowned out the spectral calls. The atmosphere thickened, heavy with despair. A low moan seemed to come from the walls, echoing the sadness of lost time. Then she saw them, small hands gripping the edges of the walls, from nooks and shadows, eyes like black holes staring hungrily. "Help us," one whispered, the air filled with sorrow. It was too much. She felt the weight of their longing pierce her. What had she gotten herself into? "What do you want?" she shouted, fear-fueled bravado breaking through the dread as she faced the figures emerging from the shadows. They looked like children, thin, gaunt, and tortured. "What do I have to give?" "Your laughter," they chorused, their voices more haunting than ever. "Leave us your joy, and we will tell you everything." Anguish twisted her insides. Give them her joy. Everyone had always said laughter was the best medicine, the balm for aching souls. But for what price? Above her, a chandelier hung from the ceiling, its glass glimmering like tiny stars. She could almost make out her reflection in the shards, twisted and contorted. A frame of herself she barely recognized. "No," she gasped. "I won't give you anything." "Then you will join us," the children proclaimed, voices rising to a terrifying pitch as they surged forward. A scream ripped from her throat as she spun to escape, colliding with the door she thought she'd entered through. It was locked, sealed tight, as if it had never existed. The children surged around her, their faces distorted with rage and desire. They were closing in, their hands reaching, grasping. "Play with us! It's your turn!" they shrieked as she pressed her back against the door, heart pounding with the realization that she was the next piece in their chilling game. In that split second of realization, something stirred within. A flicker of determination ignited in Jessica's chest. She wouldn't succumb so easily, but how could she escape the pull of their despair? Just as the darkness threatened to swallow her whole, the door behind her trembled. An opportunity, perhaps, or was it a trap? If she could harness the last of her joy, could redirect it into a weapon against their hunger. But would it be enough to save her from becoming one of the lost? With the shadows looming closer, she took a deep breath, ready to fight against her fate as they chanted, "It's all a game. The real fun is just beginning." What would the next move be in this dreadful game of survival? Would she unravel their sinister secrets before it was too late? The children lunged at her, a flurry of desperation and anger. Their eyes, void of innocence, were like black hollows devouring any trace of hope. Jessica pressed against the door, trying to will it to open, her fingers clawing at the seams, splintering her nails as they groped for a grip on the polished wood. "Let me out!" Her voice came out as a choked whisper, almost drowned by the chaotic symphony of laughter, screams, and twisted promises. "Stay with us!" they cried, their small fingers brushing against her arms, icy cold as if they'd been submerged in ice water for eons. Each touch sent a shiver down her spine, awakening a primal urge to flee. Desperation surged within her. She glanced around, searching for anything she could use, a weapon, a tool, some way to fend them off. The dim light made the shadows twist and turn, playing tricks on her eyes. Her surroundings felt alive, as if they were conspiring against her. She spotted an old, rusted lamp on a table. Grabbing it, she swung it towards the children, hoping to create a barrier between her and their madness. The glass shattered against the wall, filling the air with a sharp crack and showering her with tiny shards. The children recoiled, their expressions momentarily shifting from rage to fear. "Not the way to play, Jessica," one of them hissed, voice sweet as syrup but tinged with lethal venom. "You're making it worse." "Shut up!" she screamed, wild and desperate. A flicker of her previous joy, a distant memory of laughter echoing in sunny parks, fueled her resolve. She wasn't ready to give up. Not yet. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but each step felt heavy, like wading through thick mud. With a fierce resolve, she focused on the laughter that had once echoed through her life. Channeling the last shreds of happiness she could muster, she shouted, "I won't give you my joy! I'll fight you!" The children gasped, faces contorting with disbelief and fury. They had expected her surrender. A collective gasp echoed through the room. Their small bodies writhed in frustration, their laughter twisted into cacophonous howls. "Join us! Play with us!" they pleaded, voices merging into one unintelligible chant that enveloped her like fog. But Jessica was not listening. She bolted towards the walls, the darkness creeping closer as the sensation of desperation enveloped her. She could feel the rage of the children, an energy that made her insides churn. She was slipping, her feet losing purchase on the wooden floor. Just as shadows reached to sip away her resolve, something flickered in the corner of her vision. An old, cracked mirror hung crookedly on the wall. Without thinking, she darted toward it. Mirrors reflected the truth, didn't they? Could it reflect her joy back at her, amplify it against this darkness? As she reached it, the surface rippled like water. She pressed her hands against the glass, her breath fogging the surface. A terrible sensation prickled at her skin. What if this was another trap, another deceit? But it was all she had. "Give us everything," the children moaned, and the sorrow in their voices tugged at her heart. "Join us in our pain." The mirror flickered again, warping her own reflection, showing her a version of herself, consumed by darkness, lost forever. Her chest tightened. "No!" she shouted, frustration boiling over. "I will not become one of you!" The shadows recoiled as she focused, ready to let her laughter, her pure, cherished laughter, burst forth. Perhaps it could be a beacon against this consuming dread. As she prepared to release the joyous sound, the cabin trembled. Cracks formed in the walls, spilling ghostly images of the children's past, tragedies that twisted themselves into grotesque displays of sorrow. But could her joy be strong enough to combat their despair? In that moment of hesitation, uncertainty gripped her. Would she uncover the secret of the mirror and reshape her fate, or was she about to plunge deeper into their nightmare? The children surged forward again, their once wistful faces devolving into masks of fury and longing, their eyes burning with something darker than mere despair. "What will you choose?" they cried, voices mingling in a sinister harmony. "Joy or pain?" With the weight of the choice heavy on her chest, Jessica's next move would either shatter the darkness surrounding her or cement her fate forever. Would her laughter prove powerful enough to break through, or would she finally succumb to the ominous game? Time was running out. The game was evolving. What would be the outcome of her choice? The children lunged again, a tempest of shadows and anger. Their voices, once sweet, became serpentine whispers that slithered through the air, wrapping around Jessica's resolve. "Choose, Jessica! Choose!" Panic clawed at her throat. She could feel the walls vibrating with the weight of their plight, as if the cabin itself were alive, feeding on her fear. Her heart thundered, each beat a dull echo of despair. "Joy!" she screamed, squeezing her eyes shut, rallying that fleeting memory of laughter. She conjured images of sunlit days, the warmth of family gatherings, and the sweetness of first love, anything that could defend her from the chilling grasp of the children's despair. The reflection in the mirror shimmered again, absurdly inviting, as the ghostly images twisted into semblances of happiness. Would her laughter galvanize the last remnants of joy she held inside, or would it only provoke the shadow's wrath further? "Foolish girl!" the children shrieked in unison, their expressions venomous now, eyes glinting with a deadly hunger. "You think a memory can save you? You're wrong. Joy belongs to us now." She could almost feel the joy slipping away, her urgent hope being drowned beneath their relentless force. In a desperate act, she pressed her palms against the glass again, feeling cold seeping through her skin like frost. "Listen!" Jessica implored, her voice trembling but fierce. "I won't become one of you, don't you see? The laughter you crave isn't just pain." The mirror rippled wildly, and unbidden images of the children's past flared with grotesque clarity. Each frame revealed flickers of lost loves, broken homes, and abandonment, a collective of haunting tales whispering from the depths of the glass. A chilling clarity struck her. Their sorrow was theirs to bear, but it didn't have to consume her. "Stop it!" she cried, twisting away to face the children again, the lamp still in her grasp as if it had morphed into a wand of defiance. "You're lost. I can't save you." "Join us!" they hissed, the room echoing their anguish. "Join us in our endless despair." Each word clawed at her heart, threatening to pull her under like rushing water. Just as the mirror began to fog around the edges, Jessica summoned all her strength, wound up her resolve, and let loose a peal of laughter that pierced through the heavy air. In that moment the atmosphere shifted. The children recoiled, their faces flickering with confusion. But there was no joy within their features, only an aching void. "Fool!" the voice from the mirror sneered, tauntingly echoing her radiance. "You think you can light a fire in the darkness. You'll fail, and then you'll be one of us." But Jessica held firm. She could feel the echoes of laughter rippling outward, wrapping around the children, even if just for a moment. "You are not your pain," she shouted, each syllable imbued with the familiarity of warmth and hope. Suddenly the cabin jolted, walls groaning as if in distress. Cracks snaked across the floor, and the air trembled with an electric tension. Shapes loomed through the cracks, misshapen fragments of memories swirling with despair and anger. As she focused, a strange sensation washed over her. The mirror seemed to flicker again, pulling at the edges of her consciousness like a whisper in a dream. She peered closer, transfixed. A shadow stretched behind her, rippling across the ground, its form impossibly twisted, grasping for her. "Flee, Jessica!" A dulcet voice cooed from the depths of the mirror. "Choose correctly, or lose everything." Her laughter faded into silence, replaced by a raw, naked fear. The children surged forward, claws outstretched, drawing closer. "Choose!" they screamed, the terrifying chorus descending upon her like shattering glass. In that moment of dread, the mirror pulsed and whispered once more, "The truth awaits." Would this truth be her salvation or her undoing? As the darkness encircled her, the line between joy and pain blurred, and a wild thrumming filled her senses. What awaited her on the other side of the mirror's twisted secrets? Would she step into its darkness, or would she break free forever? The shadows surged towards her, fierce and insistent, their whispers amplifying into a cacophony of despair. Heart racing, Jessica strained against the cold, creeping dread that wrapped around her like chains. The cabin quaked as the children's cries intertwined with a sinister hum emanating from the mirror. "Choose, Jessica! Choose!" In that moment, doubt seeped into her resolve. How could she face such darkness? The mirror pulsed, beckoning with hints of secrets that lay buried within. What more had it witnessed? What horrors would it unravel? The thought clawed at her consciousness, and she stumbled back, nearly losing her footing. "Join us!" they insisted, their voices a haunting melody of anguish. Each word carried an echo of lost innocence, an invitation that felt like a curse. The children's eyes glimmered with feral intensity, and as she looked deeper, she saw reflections of her own fears. Fears of abandonment, of being unloved, of becoming a ghost herself one day, vanished and forgotten. A chilling laugh erupted from the mirror, resonating with a malicious glee. "Isn't that what you want? To embrace it? To become one with the shadows?" It taunted. Jessica pressed her hands over her ears, the voices growing louder, drowning out the faint remnants of laughter that had once felt like her shield. "No!" she shouted, the determination rekindling in her chest. "I refuse!" Suddenly the air shifted, charred with an acrid smell that reminded her of burnt memories. The shadows churned, and the children's forms began to change, shifting into the faces of people she had lost. Her parents, once smiling and loving, now twisted in agony. "You abandoned us," they whispered. "You made a choice long ago." Something cracked inside her, memories wrapped tightly around her heart, squeezing like a vice. She thought of the times they had chased fireflies, of her mother's warm embrace, of nights they laughed under the stars. Those moments were the essence of her humanity, yokes of joy deflected from the shadow's brutal grasp. "Enough!" she bellowed, eyes afire. "You don't control me!" With renewed vigor, Jessica lunged toward the mirror, a daring escape in her mind. As her palms met the glass, a searing jolt coursed through her body. The mirror rippled violently, and for an instant she glimpsed flickers of other lives. Choices made, paths not taken, endless possibilities trapped behind its surface. "Foolish child!" A visceral scream spun from the mirror, rattling the cabin's walls. The children lunged forward, dark forms shadowing the space, their mouths twisted in rage. "You cannot escape your fate." The ground beneath her shook violently, splintering wood erupting like jagged teeth. Jessica felt something pull her back, dragging her toward the abyss of despair that loomed just beyond her grasp. "Stop! Let me go!" In the throes of terror, she noticed a glimmer in the mirror's depths. An image caught her breath. A life where joy persisted, vibrant and alive, a reality where her laughter echoed. Could it be real? Was it merely a trick? The shadows writhed, desperate to engulf her. "Choose, Jessica, join us, embrace the void." With one final effort she reached into the mirror, feeling a surge of heat igniting within her. Would this act seal her fate, or grant her the redemption she sought? Darkness swelled, and the children's screams melded into a whirlwind of rage. The pulse of the mirror turned erratic, and Jessica succumbed to the heart-stopping embrace of the unknown. Then came a blinding flash. The cold retreat of the shadows momentarily stilled, and silence enveloped her, a painful quiet suspended in the air. Jessica held her breath. Had she chosen wisely? The answer loomed in the ether just out of reach. What would the mirror reveal? Would it show her the way out, or the path deeper into darkness? The silence stretched like a taut wire, vibrating with unseen tension. Jessica stood still, her heart thumping like a war drum against her ribcage. She blinked, feeling the weight of anticipation in the air. The darkness no longer pressed against her. Instead, it hovered, a curious entity waiting for her next move. And then she gazed into the mirror once more. The surface glimmered, less menacing now, but the edges shimmered with a restless energy. Something flickered inside. An image, a sudden flash of memory, a child's laughter. Was that her own? Jessica stepped closer, her breath fogging the glass. It rippled as she approached, distorting the memories it held. She thought she could hear the echoes of her laughter, sweet and innocent, before being swallowed back by the shadowy confines. "What are you?" she whispered, half to herself, half to the sinister artifact before her. "Your truth," it replied, its voice a blend of honey and ash. "The light you wish to see." Jessica drew in a breath. Was it really her truth or an illusion? Could she afford to believe it? The flickers morphed into scenes: her first bike ride, a summer's day, her friends dancing around a crackling fire. But as she watched, a creeping chill filled her veins. Each joy was tainted, darkness seeping into the corners of her memory like ink in water. "You think you can escape? The past shapes your reality," the mirror taunted. The laughter distorted, morphing into cries of despair. She recoiled, her heart racing again. "No, you don't own my memories. I will not surrender," she shouted into the darkness. But the mirror responded with a seething laugh, and the shadows stirred once again, maintaining their grasp on her core. "You cannot resist us forever," they hissed, voices low and dripping with malice. Jessica's fists clenched, determination renewing her spirit. There had to be a way to turn this cycle of torment into a power within her. The warmth of her lost joys flickered like a candle's flame, and she remembered her parents' smiles, not twisted in pain but full of love. They would not wish her to falter. "Show me," she demanded, her voice cutting through the disdain. The images erupted in a burst of chaotic colors, fragments of hope intermingled with despair. Her childhood shimmered vividly, but pressed alongside were moments of weakness, times she had neglected to fight through darkness. It was both painful and liberating. "Face them," the mirror whispered. "Only then can you move forward." Jessica's breath grew shallow as shadows clawed at her. She could feel their fingers grasping for her, desperate and insistent. Each touch was cold, paralyzing, but she didn't waver. She wouldn't allow them to diminish her spirit. She focused on that vibrant life she glimpsed earlier, the laughter, the fireflies, the warm embraces. Eyes narrowing, she thrust her hand against the mirror's surface again, channeling her memories into that very place. "Let me in," she cried with all the force she could muster, but the barrier quivered, resisting her. "You seek light in darkness, Jessica. All must be paid." A pang shot through her. A debt. What would that demand? A soul, a price she could not afford. Then there was a deafening crack as the mirror splintered, shards cascading like rain. The children's whispers morphed again, turning desperate, almost pleading, as if aware their hold was loosening. "You belong to us!" they screamed. "No!" Jessica roared, thrusting forward through the broken glass, feeling each shard slice away the last vestiges of her fear. And then a blinding light. A rush of warmth enveloped her, spilling over into her being, flames of joy igniting her spirit as the darkness recoiled, shrieking in fury. The calm crept in, tranquil yet disquieting, as she fell into the brilliance that surrounded her. In that luminous embrace, a new set of shadows formed around her, but these were different, not malevolent, but shrouded in mystery. "Will you find the truth?" a voice whispered, familiar yet alien. Jessica hesitated, heart pounding. She was teetering at the precipice of the unknown. The beckoning shadows danced enticingly, teasing her with unspoken secrets. Would it lead her closer to her deepest fears or illuminate the darkest corners of her soul? The light flickered, then faded, and silence reigned once more, leaving Jessica gasping. What awaited her on the other side of truth? Fear gripped her throat. She wondered, would her next choice be one of salvation, or would she be consumed by the lingering darkness that still loomed? The air crackled with expectation as Jessica stood at the threshold between light and shadow. In the luminous haze, echoes of laughter and whispers merged, intertwining, stretching across time. "Will you find the truth?" the voice cooed again, softer this time, inviting. With her heart hammering in her chest, she felt the inexorable pull of the shadows. Her instincts screamed to retreat, to escape, but the flickers of warmth kindled hope within her. She took a shaky breath, determined to confront the darkness that had haunted her long enough. "Yes, I want the truth," she declared, both a promise and a challenge. As if responding to her resolve, the shadows peeled back, revealing a pathway lined with shimmering light. It sparkled like dew on fresh grass at dawn, enticing and warm. One step at a time, Jessica moved forward, each footfall resonating with newfound strength. She was ready to face whatever lay ahead, even if it meant confronting the ghosts of her past. The shadows whispered her name, thick with urgency, weaving tales of lost children and forgotten memories. "You abandoned us," they echoed, and with each word an image flickered to life, a carousel swirling with laughter and delight. The laughter distorted, twisting into melancholy as she recalled the children who had vanished, the families fractured by grief and darkness. "Did I leave you behind?" she questioned into the silence, feeling the ache tug at her heart. A swirl of images enveloped her, memories of joy slipping away like sand through her fingers. The childlike laughter turned haunting, echoing with despair. Yet amidst that ache, a flicker of warmth danced, a familial embrace, the unwavering love of her parents, the pure joy of her own children. "Let it go," the shadows hissed, trying to pull her backward into despair. "Join us in our suffering." "No!" Jessica snapped, standing resolute. "You don't own my past. You've twisted my joy and manipulated my fears, but I will not be one of you." The light around her flared in response. It blazed brighter, illuminating dark corners of her memories, harsh truths she had buried through disregard and complacency. With every revelation, bitterness and regret transformed into resolve, as if she were shedding the burdens that tied her to the shadows. She remembered long afternoons with her children, laughter spilling over in joy. Her voice echoed in her mind, reminding herself, "I am not defined by past mistakes. I hold power over my own joy." As she stepped deeper into the light, she felt the shadows falter, shifting away, their grip loosening. "You have a choice," the voice called out, tones flickering like the candlelight outside the cabin. "With knowledge comes a great burden. Will you accept the truth, even if it shatters everything you know?" "Tell me!" she shouted, her defiance reverberating through the air. "I'm ready to face it all." The ground trembled, and as the light pulsed, vivid images flooded her consciousness, moments of laughter snatched away, faces of children she had never met, and even the townsfolk she had trusted, all those lost, yet all waiting for someone to remember them with love. "Forgive yourself," came the whisper, now warm and inviting, echoing through the light. "That's how you save them." With tears streaming down her cheeks, Jessica understood. The truth would not just be a weapon, but a shield, a doorway to healing. She could reclaim her joy, allow it to penetrate the shadows. The laughing shadows morphed, merging into a radiant blend of colors, and Jessica stepped closer, breathing in joy and grief. "I forgive you," she spoke to the children, "and more importantly, I forgive myself." As the words spilled forth, the shadows recoiled, untangling as wisps of sorrow drifted away like fog at dawn. Light cascaded around her, warming her skin as laughter transformed, becoming a symphony of joy echoing in the cabin. Each lost spirit twinkled, glowing as hope ignited within them, intertwined with her resolve. The figures of missing children swirled into view, their expressions softening, grateful. "Thank you for seeing us," they echoed, their voices now filled with love and trust. Jessica beamed at them, feeling the weight lift from her shoulders, clearing the burden of guilt she had carried for too long. She breathed in the sweetness of their laughter, knowing that she had reclaimed her happiness. Suddenly, the mirror shimmered, its surface becoming a portal. "Step through and return," it beckoned, overflowing with promise. The door creaked open, revealing warm light and the familiar landscape of her childhood, the one she had longed for. Just before stepping through, she glanced back over her shoulder at the cabin, its oppressive weight dissolving into the air. The shadows that had haunted her were now starlight, glimmers of love that would guide her moving forward. With every step she took, the light swirled around her, embracing her in a comfort she had almost forgotten. "Thank you," she whispered, heart full. "I will remember." With that, she stepped through the threshold, knowledge of the darkness transforming into a lightness of being. Stepping back into the world, she felt the warmth of her children's laughter engulf her like sunlight. She'd conquered her fears and learned to treasure the joy that had always been tucked within her, unshakable and everlasting. As she drove home, headlights guiding her through the familiar terrain, she felt confident in who she had become. The night seemed lighter, shadows merely signposts of past stories, reminders that would never hold power over her again. Jessica finally knew she could honor the past while embracing a bright future, a future lit with laughter and joy, where she would ensure no child would ever be lost again. And with that thought, she pressed on through the night, a fierce smile blossoming on her face, ready to reclaim her narrative once and for all. Now, if you've journeyed with us through this spine-tingling tale, it's time to take action. You need to subscribe now to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash the like button now to feed that algorithm, because your support means the world. Flood the comment section with your reactions and theories about Jessica's incredible journey. What did you think of her choices? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this stunning conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of showing support. Let's light up that darkness together.